Hey everyone,
It's Chad Church,
and Nikolai Phelan.
and we are excited to bring to you our brand new podcast,
Hullabaloo. A cross-generational
media consumption podcast
where two gay men
from different generations
watch movies,
read books
listen to music, and more,
to bridge GenX
and Gen Z. I thought that was pretty good.
Let's do another take.
Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Hullabaloo. I'm Nikolai Phelan.
And I'm Chad Church.
And this episode is the Being Charlie episode.
Being Charlie, and more Rob Reiner than being Charlie, I think, because being Charlie is clearly not a happy place, right?
Yeah, so we watched Rob Reiner's film. It's kind of hard to even call it a Rob Reiner film because of the context of how it was made. It was his nepotistic transgression in his filmography that was autobiographically kind of about Nick Reiner, his son. Nick wrote the script, and yeah, so generally speaking, here at Hullabaloo, we have kind of a masterpiece only / masterpiece mostly. The reason we watched this was because obviously of like this state of current events, and it seemed like it could potentially be a window into that relationship. Like maybe it would be, since it was this movie that his son had written, the one that is allegedly has killed him and his wife. We were like, okay, well, perhaps there's something to understand about this great tragedy, because both Chad and me are we both really love Rob Reiner films. When we were writing Stingray, I think he was kind of, in a weird way, we were kind of writing a Rob Reiner film, I think,
Yeah,
without realizing it.
I think our discussion initially started talking about that, the feeling you get from like a Stand By Me,
Yeah.
those kind of real emotional films that are, heavy in dialogue and feeling, I guess.
Yeah, there's the thing that I think Rob Reiner did that was so unique was, I think, like, as so much outpouring support for him and this, like, in this tragedy, it's been really clear that his legacy is one of great kindness. He was a huge advocate for the LGBT community. He is beloved by so many, and when you look at the films that he's made, it's that beating heart that I think really kind of comes to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
What I think is interesting about Being Charlie is it's very transparently an act of codependency.
Yeah, it truly
It
is.
feels like it was, and I find that relatable, because I could see myself being like that if I was a dad and my son was going through it. I would want to find a way to help them understand their vision, and I've done this many times with friends where it's like I try to do it with boyfriends, for God's sakes, where you're like, you want to do this thing? I know how to do that thing. I'll show you how to do it. I'll give you all my energy. And that's what it seems like it was. But the sad thing was that in the story, first off, I don't find the arc of the story so believable. Like, it doesn't have a happy ending, right? Like, it ends in like this kind of happy note, like he's kind of on the path to sobriety again, but it feels like the sobriety is a blip of sobriety in a pattern of addiction for the character,
Which it is in real life.
which it was in real life. And then
I
the
suppose he's sober now, right?
forced. And what's also devastating is I found it so cruel, his depiction of his father. I go, how could he? It's shocking. One of the things that's very interesting when you read about the script, Nick had pitched the script to Rob originally as a comedy. And then Rob said, "Oh, it's not, like, this isn't going to work." Then he said, "Let's try it as a drama." Then he rewrote it as a drama, brought it to him, and then he made that work. But then in the story, there's this comedic element where it's like the comedy is appreciated by the masses but rejected by authority figures, right?
Mhm,
And this is transparently that is transparently a dig at his father.
mhm,
Like,
mhm,
that's not I don't think that's necessarily, like, you know, I don't think that, like, Taylor Swift does similar things. You can put it in your art, they don't understand me, but a lot of the humor and the jokes that are present, I felt weren't so funny. And it was kind of like dead air for me.
I think
And
go ahead.
no, no, no. No, no. You go ahead.
No, I think that, what was because I'm more caught up in the Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner element of this whole happening, this whole
Right.
tragic affair, right? And where I come from in my read on this is maybe even a little harsher because I felt while it felt like some, Lifetime movie network Wednesday night film or,
Literally.
it
It was giving Hallmark Lifetime. It was giving it was just like you're like, the stakes aren't staking, honey.
yeah. And Rob Reiner
Put
is
them on the
better than
grill. Cook it.
oh, they're about to get grilled. And I feel bad because that's not the caliber of Rob Reiner, but it is directly connected to how that nepo baby, let me enable you element that you've spoken of, that we know is there.
Right.
Uh, and while this is such a sad thing, being somebody who had a brother who was an addict and an alcoholic, and
Mm.
there's a certain point in my belief system, there is a certain point where you just have to turn them off. And that's what several
Yeah.
members of my family did with my brother. And unfortunately, my father didn't do that. And that led to, $35,000, not a lot of money for, rich people, but, my brother stealing $35,000 out of his account, writing checks over years, like, 2 or 3 years that we finally caught up with when my sister started getting all of his financials, and in handling all that stuff in his later age. And,
Mm.
every time we'd get my brother kicked out of the house and removed at 40 years old, 50 years old,
He
he would,
was he was in his 50s, he was still that way.
yeah, he would just be back. And my father couldn't see this after, a lifetime of, oh, Butchie needs a car. Oh, Butchie needs a car. Oh, Butchie joined a new
It's the
sport.
fear
Oh,
of death.
yeah,
I
well,
had the same thing. I think it's for me, at least when my sister was like that. My sister has gotten a million times better. Like she's not like that anymore. But when I was when I was younger, I was very codependent with her because I was afraid she was going to die.
mhm,
And then
mm,
I was writing her eulogy in my head at the age of 17 when I was in college, lying in bed thinking, because my everybody else had kind of thrown her out, but she was 17. We were
mhm,
both like she was 18, I was 17, we are 4 months apart. So it was kind of like I always had there was this complicated thing that I was always dealing with I think at least in my family with addiction because sometimes I would be on the receiving end of the being thrown out
mhm,
because they had to do that with somebody else. And so as soon as I wasn't even allowed like a toe out of line before it was like out the window with you. And so it's kind of like sometimes it's like I don't have any addictions. I'm not robbing you. I don't, you know, but it's crazy, but it was also like with my sister, it was, I had that same thing. I just, it was like, there's this, there's this choking feeling of like a hand on your throat of like, but what if they die? It's like, and then you eventually, 'cause you're just trying to control it. You're trying to figure out if I help them enough, but you can't. And there's, an amazing book by, Anne Lamott, which I love, and she had a son that was in active addiction, and she would always just she said she would say, "I had a lot of big ideas for him. I had so many ideas, and I was so helpful, and the most helpful thing I could do," she goes, she called herself a black belt codependent,
Mm,
right?
love it.
And I love it. And I always related to that because I do think that the beauty of codependency is it does make you strong because you find yourself going to lengths that are incomprehensible, inconceivable, and to the depths of sources of despair
Well, I
that
think it
people
makes
do.
you strong, and I think it weakens you as well. You know, I mean,
Totally,
there's
totally.
a dichotomy.
But it only makes you strong if you get free of it, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Because it's like the depths of despair that somebody finds themselves in that state of codependency, which is a form of addiction, is, it's it's really a hell. It's the hell of the mind, and you're so sure that if you let go, if you take your hands off and go, "I'm out," that it's gonna crash and burn, and then you're gonna have to live with the guilt of watching them die. But then, in this case, what happens? What you give birth to the person who murders you.
Right? Well, one of the things that in the discussions that I was having that I think that I fully believe have saved me in that was I was having discussions with my older sister, the eldest of the three of us, about
Mhm.
this during, these times with him from being, 17, 18 years old.
Are you
And
the baby?
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
We're
Oh,
both
am I the
babies. We're the
baby? I'm a big baby, baby. Um,
by a
but
lot, by a lot.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There was 7 years between my brother and I, and 10 between my sister and I.
Okay, okay.
And so the best is less left for the rest. The
Girl, I don't know what the best is left for the we got may have to take a take 2 on that, chat. I'm not sure that's you leave the best for last? Is that what you're trying to
something of that ilk, right? But
Okay, okay.
the the reality of it is my sister, who was like a licensed social worker,
Mhm.
she said to me early on when we went for a ride to the beach one day, and we're just having, a nice time together, lunch and all that kind of stuff. And I said, I just want to change him. I just want to change Butchie. I want to help him to, understand these things and such. And that was, at an earlier age. And then later on, again, when I was in real estate in Denver and doing well and had a big nonprofit investor doing renovations to houses and stuff, I was like, well, he's in construction. I can bring him in, and he could move to Denver and get off of the drugs and be away from
Right,
the dirt bags that he hangs out with. So again, part of that codependency. But
right,
early on, my sister gave me an exquisite jewel of information or direction. And she said, Chad, you can never change anyone. And
right,
so that was the basis for me looking at this from a very pragmatic standpoint, which I think people get lost in having the ability to manifest for themselves when they're caught up in it. And I believe this has got to be, and it's kind of evidenced in this Being Charlie film, that I think this is maybe one of the biggest mistakes people make, because you can't change anybody, and you can, I believe that sure, let's give them, some help a couple times. I mean, I really live my life in a three strikes and you're out kind of
Right, right.
way.
I agree. You know, one of the things that it's so interesting that you said that because I had the same thing when I was growing up. So I had an aunt who was not a social worker; she was a therapist, but she wasn't my like aunt. She was my mom's best friend, and she was Gemini. Aunt Lauren and Aunt Lauren was cultural. That to me, she was everything. Aunt Lauren was funny as fuck. She was so fucking funny. She was funny. She had jokes and she had bits. She had bits. And one of my favorite things she did with kids, she was the funniest. So with kids, with me and my sister, she used to take us to she didn't know where the zoo was, so she'd go, "We're going to the zoo." And then she'd take us to Petco.
I think you might have done this before. That's funny.
She and then she go, and then we're gonna go to the library, and then she didn't know where the library was, so she took us to Barnes and Noble, and, and then she took us to the movie theater, and and we would always do that, and but every year for my birthday, she'd always take me to see a movie, and I loved to see a movie with Aunt Lauren. It was my favorite thing because she would let me see whatever I wanted. So we would go see a good movie because Aunt Lauren was down for it. She was like, "Let's go see something crazy." I knew that she was like, we were both locked in, right? And Aunt Lauren, I remember, year after year, she kept telling me as I was growing up, she'd say, I get really frustrated with my sister because I remember it was with my Yu-Gi-Oh cards. So with my sister, it was, this is like I think the beginning of my codependency. And codependency, I think can very much be imagined as that thing with Lucy and the football. Charlie Brown. She holds the football. He runs towards the football. She pulls it away. He falls on his face.
Mhm,
He keeps trying again and again. It's like the football, like this situation is like life in this situation. It's not that person necessarily. They may not have control either, but you have to imagine that the situation is Lucy with the football
mhm,
and that the only way out is to tap out. And so
mhm,
she said to me, she said, "Nikki, you're trying to change her."
mhm.
And he goes, and she'd say, "You can never change people. You can only change the way you react to them."
There you go.
And this is it. It's you can't change people, which you can enact change in people, but you can't institute change on people,
Mhm,
right? Like you can be wonderful, you can embody energy, and they can invite themselves into it. They can invite themselves into the change. And we can invite change by believing, by praying, by loving, right? Love them. That was the thing that Anne Lamott said that helped heal her son
mhm.
was when she let go, she stopped having ideas and she took time to go heal herself,
And that's what
grieve.
this is what this is all about. So I wonder to what extent this family did go to Al-Anon programs and endeavored in those kinds of activities that I think would have been far more potentially would have been far more helpful for them rather than I mean, this kid was in the rehab 17 or 18 times? How like, if you're an average family and you've got your average health insurance, it's like $30,000 a month, or it used to be anyway, to
For rehab?
yeah,
Yeah,
so
it must have been. It must have been a majillions of dollars.
yeah,
It
and
must have cost
if
so much.
I worked in a rehab, rather in a an acute care psychiatric hospital in 1988 and 1989, and they would call it the 30-day Blue Cross vacation, and it would cost $30,000. Private hospital, but $30,000 then, right? So
Wow.
yeah, and it was nice. It was a very nice facility, and people would come back like 2 or 3 times sometimes.
I think it's just so hard when I think it's also like the other thing is I don't wanna speculate the mistake because it's not there's no we can't I don't think it's a fair thing. I don't because we don't know
Don't know what.
we don't know what they did or didn't do.
Well, we
And
know that
they're also
we
but
know that
they're
sent
also
him
gone.
away. I know, and believe me, all due and like in the real terms of the phrase, all due respect to Rob and Michelle Reiner and their children. I can't imagine how the two surviving children feel, or Penny Marshall's child feels in this, who he was the stepdad to. But I think that what we tend not to do so much anymore is when we don't look at things from the perspective of this is the way it is, understand it, and move on. We're so feely, touchy feely about how we engage situations anymore, that this is how these things happen, because this was, to me, this was, and again, I'm not trying to put anything
But
on.
don't you think that the way that this thing happened is that quite simply I think at some point, and this is what I would say, is that in the context of this situation, we're talking about somebody with a lot of money. The 17, 18 rehab visits might have been nothing to
But it
him,
doesn't
his
matter.
network.
3, like, 3 should be enough.
Yeah, but then what? So this is the thing. So then what is the answer is okay,
Pragmatism.
so then it's about being like, okay, at that point he couldn't enable it anymore. Sure. But maybe he stopped and then maybe they got back together and things got better. Like maybe there were a lot of cycles. I don't think we could speculate because they're dead.
But it's all out
They're
there.
gone. They're gone. And I don't here's my thing. No, here's my thing. I'll say this. I I would never in a million years want like I would love to I'm open to engaging with the greater conversation about humanity and that. What I don't want, what I personally refuse to do and won't do is be on record speculating about mistakes that cost them their life. It's their life. It was their life. It's not my life to judge.
I'm not,
All I can
listen,
say is that it's a tragedy.
which is fine. But if you'll allow
Yeah.
me the grace, or
Okay.
the at least decency, to say what I have to say about this, because it's very basic for me. The bottom line is sad, as tragic as this is. A spoiled, rotten kid.
True. I agree with that. I think he's spoiled. He was awful. He was rude. He was fucked. I'm in agreement there.
Right. And so, and this is again, in the larger format of things, this is what I see as one of the problems in our society, especially as Americans, right? It's always for parents that are my age, right? Or boomers, the end of the boomer class. There's always let me make it better for you. Let me make it better for you. That's how kids show up buying their first home in BMWs. That's how kids, and they don't understand that they might have to paint. That's how all of these things, like, currently we're having a thing with my niece, right? Where she's at home with her families at her mom and dad's house, and is 38 and is like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna have to move out." I think that at this point in time, it's time for some parents to pull back some of that, and I think maybe if they had pulled back some from
Yeah.
that, and I guess there were times when they did. All due
Yeah.
credit to them for having pulled back when they did, but I don't think that they would necessarily be in this situation as, or,
We
deceased
don't
now.
know. We don't know. That's the thing that I would say
But
is
we
that no,
they're
because you're because we're talking about this if you're like on this timeline, but if somebody who's capable of killing, like that's the thing that we have to acknowledge is that this is somebody who is capable of killing his parents.
which is a big thing.
So we what where I'm like where I can't where I my stance is like I can't take that moral stance because I'm in agreement that that there was clearly patterns of codependency.
And
What
to
I can't
interrupt,
spec
and to interrupt, you don't have to take that moral stance. I'm
Okay.
I'm taking responsibility for myself right here, right now,
Okay,
saying
okay.
that some kids need an ass whooping. Some kids
And I think he needs it. I agree he's a piece of shit, right? Like it's very evident, especially the more you read that it's like and when you see the film, it's like this guy like narcissistic out the wazoo, right? But for me, what to me seems like the more important conversation is outside of the context of Rob Reiner is what is what is more important than speculating where they went wrong is actually recognizing how this connects to everyone. Why is this story? Where is this story everyone's story and where is this story just theirs? Right? And so for me, it's like this is everybody's story in the sense that we all love people in our lives and learning how to let go, learning how to turn your back on somebody you love because they are toxic, abusive, cruel, in active addiction. These are things that, it can kill you. That's the lesson. It can kill you. That because of their fear of him dying, I suspect my suspicion from my own personal experience is from their most likely their fear of losing him and him dying ultimately resulted in their deaths. And the irony is not lost on me there, right? That is this is not a zero sum game. It does have a cost. And that is a really like eye-opening lesson because when for anybody who's codependent, for anybody who's in that situation, you don't fathom that you, in the position of power, the person giving help, right? The person handing over the bananas to the monkey, that the chimpanzee is going to claw out your eyes or tear off your genitals, reach for the fingers as they do.
but it's not a domesticated animal anymore. It's been in the wild. You know what I mean? So you have to have some level of greater understanding about that when you look at it. I mean, this guy is a guy who was invited by his parents who were very worried about him. He was not on the list to go to this party at Conan O'Brien's house. He goes
Right,
there. He's inappropriately dressed. He's acting like a freak show. They get into an argument and then they are forced to leave because of the embarrassment of this situation, and then they go home and he mutilates them. And I
right.
understand that there are some, other factors that may come into play here around schizophrenia and so forth and so on, but if that's the case, just there's a place and a time where I believe.
I think there's another conversation to be had also that even the rich need it doesn't even matter if you're exorbitantly wealthy without a communal infrastructure for mental health care. um Even the rich are at are at odds, like in a society that takes care of people who have mental illness, right? I also imagine that the fame, the excess, and the wealth probably does kind of add on to the addiction because you have the resources, right? Like you to be able to have the resources to buy the substances is, a part of the equation. But I also think like, yeah, it's a lot of people are alone dealing with these problems. They're relying on expensive facilities, relying on these rehab. And it's like so much of that stuff is perverse. So much of these rehab facilities, so much of these kinds of hospitals, they're perverse because they
And the kid
exist.
and the kid points it out in the film, right? He
Right.
says, like, he basically says, that they're making money off of sending him back into these facilities again and again and again. But so everybody understood clearly what was going on. This is just, what is that woman, that weird woman that was out there always like, the definition of insanity is doing the
Is doing
same
the
thing
same
over
thing
and over
over and
again and
over and
expecting a
expecting a different
different
result.
result. I mean,
Yeah.
this is what I'm talking about. Not only was there an enablement for him to be what he became, at the end of the day, they enabled him to do what he did. And feeding him again and again, just it doesn't make sense to me. I'm kind of like, when in the hell in this country, in this world, are we gonna start having these discussions about, it says the coffee is hot. If you drop it on yourself, you will burn. We have to take some accountability for what we do and the decisions we
I
make.
mean, I guess my stance is that it's clearly like I don't think anybody I bet you if you could speak to Rob right now, he would probably say he knew something was going to eventually happen.
He
That
did say
either
that. He said he was afraid of his son.
this is it. This is it. That there's a sensation of inevitability. And so it's tragic in the way that a Greek tragedy is tragic. Like at some point the bed was made and then that's it. That it's devastating.
It
It's
is.
sad because it's one of, somebody who has done so much for so many people that's taken from this earth. And it's complex and convoluted because the legacy that's left is the dangers of love. It's about love. That this person who put love into all of his films, it was his love and his attachment that ultimately was his kind of it appears
Undoing.
was his undoing.
Hmm.
And so I think let's move on from talking about his son and let's talk about a little more about Rob and his legacy and some of the stuff that he did. Um, and also talk about, what can we take away or how can we what are the things that people can take away to do better, be better, and protect their themselves and their hearts.
Well, is that part of why you take this? I won't call it a defense of this kid, but the positioning that you're taking here around more of a, I feel, I don't want to use the term brutal, but certainly frank discussion I feel I'm having about how one might address somebody in their family whom they love with something like this.
My stance is actually just simply that I want it to be on record that I don't want to speculate about somebody's dead parents,
Three
like the
times
things
now.
that they may or may not have done.
I mean, you've said that,
Yeah.
I completely, I see and understand and can empathize.
But I'm not saying that what you're doing is wrong. I'm actually it's just that for me that was my like kind of angle is just simply that I'm like even just in the balance here. It's important I think we don't have to have the same position. I think it's important with the two of us that one of us takes that position
Mhm.
because we have 33.5 million listeners and one of them
And from
could be
me, they're gonna
related.
get the, "Hey, this is
I
the
and it's
way
the
I see it."
I no, I think the realism is true. I'm not like there's nothing about what you've said that I necessarily disagree with. For me, I think I'm behaving like a scale. Like I'm trying to operate in a way that's creating this sense of scale because in the face of tragedy like this, I can only imagine how difficult it is for his children and I would it doesn't it's implausible that it would ever get to them,
So
but
we're
I'm
in we're in
thinking
this
about
we're
them
we're in
in
this
my head. I'm trying to be respectful and protective of them
I
because
I
they exist.
I feel you
They're still
100%.
alive,
I feel you
and this
100%.
is
So
their
we're at this
story, you
place
know?
where we're at this place of, is it too soon? Sometimes it is absolutely too soon. If it were, the day, the week after this happened, maybe people wanna
I don't
that
even know if it's a too soon thing. It's that when you have the conversation, right? And that, which is what I'm thinking is that it's it's covering all your bases so that you're having the full conversation and recognizing
I'm
you're shaking your head. Why are you
no, because I'm not concerned about covering my bases. It's like, hey, maybe it's my ass on the line at some point. Someone's like, "Oh, that was that son of a bitch that, said all those things about Rob Reiner and such." What have I said? This poor man and this poor man's wife were mutilated by their spoiled, rotten child. I feel
right,
terrible for the sibling. Maybe this is where some of my the discord comes from, where my anger's coming from, is because at the end of the day, yes, there were 3 children, one that was, a stepchild, and 2 blood relatives that were left in this horrible position of my brother killed my parents, and how do we move on? There's talk about whether this money for his defense that's gonna be at least $10 million is coming from the family estate and that they're actually paying for the lawyer. And that's a decision that if in fact this is true and verifiable, then that's a decision they made out of love. And I can respect that. I can respect that from the bottom of my heart that they were like, listen, we're not going to let him get the death penalty over this.
right.
He was a drug addict and he was doing drugs with the new medicine, and the new medicine made it so that, you mix too many drugs together, you're going to get a fatal effect one
A
way or the
psychotic reaction. Yeah,
yeah, right. So I can feel for them in that sense that, what do you do in a situation like that when you know your parents loved him so much that it killed them? I can feel for them. They're at a horrible place. I would never want to be in that position. But again, I'm the pragmatist that is not going to say that there things had things being done a little differently in that family, actually really looking at what was going on at the time, that maybe this could have been avoidable. And
right.
that's where I really stand
Oh,
my
I agree.
ground.
I think I do agree that it was probably avoidable. Probably. I
Yeah,
can't speculate because if that's your crazy son who's got these drugs and medications, and like it's impossible to know because he could have broken into their house and killed them anyways. If 5 months later, you don't know. Like we don't know.
but
You know
the
what I mean?
basis of this is at risk to yourself or others.
Right. It's putting yourself it's also like recognizing the signs.
Mhm.
Like they're trusting your intuition. If you feel afraid of somebody in your family, in your gut, if there's somebody you don't trust, don't then there's a reason.
Yeah,
Believe that.
yeah, that's why
Believe
the
it because
skin
it's
on the
true. It's
hair on your
scary, man.
arms
Yeah.
raising,
Right. It's and your gut has more neurons than your or I think the second most number of neurons than your brain. It might have more. I have to double check.
And the
But
daughter even said when she went over there, she was fearful that he would have done something to them, and she was the one that immediately said, "This is probably my brother."
right.
So they knew, and people at the party at Conan's house, they all knew, pardon me, they all knew that the Reiners were at risk with this.
But it's like the thing that I always find interesting about these kinds of situations, right? Is we're all living in that potential energy all the time. everywhere you go, every time I'm in my friend groups, I'm like, you have people who you have your friend who's like with this boyfriend that you're like, about that boyfriend. Or you've got your other friend who's like family's kind of crazy and they're like fucking with them all the time. Or, or you're like, your one friend is like doing like is going to too many sex parties or whatever it is. Like, at least in my life. So it's specific.
Well,
But the point is that all of those things, like, again, we're talking about, like, you're like, all these people knew. Yeah, but those people were doing what we're telling Rob Reiner to do.
maybe
Do you know what I mean?
those.
They're doing what we're telling Rob Reiner to do, which is you can't control that. It's not up to you.
Mhm.
It's up to that person. If they get involved and they try to control it, we're just playing a like relay codependency.
Oh,
So
yeah. But I mean, I think that people
information is always swirling. Tragedy is, I think, is rarely an accident. It's often kind of a planet that orbits.
well, I wonder how many people told them, Michelle and Rob, "You need to cut the cord." I'm certain that because I'm the friend that would've. I'm the guy that would've said, "You know what? I know it's horrible, and it's a fucking mess. Every time you turn around, you're
But
dealing with."
we don't know how many times they did. That's
How
the
many times
thing.
those people did, or how many times
How many times Rob and Michelle did. Because they might have cut the cord before.
they
I
did, they
my
did. That's how the kid ended up on the streets in Maine. That's how he ended up on the streets in Texas. That's how he ended up in, many times they cut the cord. And then he'd come back and they'd bring him back in and they'd go through it again. And that's what I'm talking about. It doesn't, one of the things that I want to get out of this life that I'm not particularly great at is that I too trust people too much sometimes, and
right.
I will do make the same mistakes again and again of the same like that same caliber of mistake. "Oh, I trusted you
Right.
and you walked away with a bunch of my money,"
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
I know, it's like, girl, you're like, it's literally the head of the hydra. You chop one off and then you're like, "And I passed the test." And then
You
it's like, it
you
reappears 6 months later when you're in a different context, different place, less emotional viability, and therefore more vulnerable, and it coming faster, stronger. And you're like, that's the thing where I have to show grace, because I go, it takes. But I guess the thing that is, it's hard. If Rob Reiner was clearly an exceptional person.
I
He was an
and I
exceptional
get it.
person.
It's hard.
He's an exceptional, but it's not a hard thing. It's exceptional people. You talk about people like Robin Williams, right? Sometimes people are built extreme. And that extremeness, right? If he was all heart that allowed him to go out into the world, then this was his death. If it wasn't that, it was a heart attack. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was built a certain way that allowed him to do incredible things that changed and impacted the world. And yet, it's it's no different than the surfers that get their arms or limbs bitten off by sharks. That's my stance. Okay, here's my new stance. I think that if if in order to do the good he did in the world, the cost was this. And he knew this going into his life. Like, his soul knew that. Then that's it. Life is fucking confusing. And it's a lesson. It's a lesson for everybody else. But for him, it was his life.
Mhm. Mhm. And, fair enough, in a more spiritual
What
recognition
other
or
way can you look at it? I mean,
I
we've
can
looked at
look
it
at
from
it
a
from the
from,
perspective that it was avoidable.
but we don't know. We know that this specific thing could have been avoidable,
Well, we
but
don't
we
know
don't
that it
like.
was his life to have his throat slashed either, or hers.
I mean, the horror of that, yes, but what if in a different way, the his compassion? What if he had gone to help a homeless person and gotten stabbed in the throat then? Do you know what I
It would
mean?
be more
Like,
understandable for me.
but the thing about the understandability is it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters. It's his life. I think that the
Absolutely, and listen, he can live his life well, he could live his life, and she could live her life however they wanted to with this, but, the decisions that were made about this nepo baby,
but we don't know the decisions.
they had him back into his house when he was unsafe, multiple times. He
It
trashed
was
their guest
it
house one time.
I know he like, but what I'm saying is like, again, we this might be this is his own limitations. He died. It's over. It's
Mm,
done.
mhm.
So only God can judge. That's my like my perspective. And I'm like,
You
and
see
I'm
me
not,
think I'm
and
judging him for this?
I do. I don't think it's in a mean way, but I do think you're like, there were decisions and the decisions that were made. And I feel like, I mean, but
Okay, if that's the case, I also would judge people who cannot fucking read hot coffee and then wanna sue people for millions of
but,
dollars
but
over
do you
hot
know
coffee.
about the hot coffee thing, right?
Two old ladies in a car at McDonald's, and
No,
they
it was one old lady and she got third-degree burns, and the third-degree burns were so
I
bad that
saw
the
them.
skin was, but the coffee was like 300 degrees.
It says hot fucking coffee.
It's not hot. That's not hot. It was burning her through the cup.
I don't know. I think that people need to take responsibility for some of the choices that they
No,
make.
that was a smear campaign from McDonald's. That was a smear campaign from McDonald's.
And
I had this exact conversation with Roberto. I had this exact fight with Roberto because he was like, "You just don't know when coffee's hot." And I was like, I'm pretty sure that hot coffee thing was like, there's more information to it. We looked it up, and then he was like, she's just suing stuff. Listen, in a full agreement about the suing thing, right? Because that did the smear
now everybody, oh
campaign.
my God, I got this, I got a cold soda.
But in other places where people aren't living in desperation, living without safety nets, people don't sue like that.
No.
People are clawing for money because there's billionaires who have it all.
Yeah. And yeah. And so, hey, am I sad that McDonald's got sued? Not at all. I'm saying personal accountability for what happens to you.
Always.
I was
But
just on this
I'm
cruise.
in agree.
I was just on this cruise, right? And on this cruise, we
But
get to
what
the
is personal?
Bahamas, and I'm sitting there on my chaise lounge, all having a wonderful time under the sun, not thinking a freaking thing about this is the hottest sun I've been in probably years, and it might make sense to have some skin sunblock on, and maybe I should be under a parasol or something. Thankfully, when the couple next to me got up, they said, "Move over here to our seats, and you'll be better protected by the sun," right? I have a third-degree burn on my leg, on my calf now, that's like 4 inches by 3 inches because my dumbass fell asleep under the
This is
sun,
you're
and
the
it's
third
well,
degree burn.
may I finish? May I finish? So, my dumbass fell asleep under the sun and burnt myself. I can't sue Norwegian Cruise Lines for that.
Personal accountability. You got a third degree burn on your leg because you were
Yeah.
suntanning.
But I'm not suing Norwegian over, "Oh, you didn't have a sign up that said the sun could be very hot. Make sure to put sunscreen on." I'm saying that you know, at some level, there's accountability when you are in a relationship like that, and that's of course, and then my phone goes off. Um, but I had it off until I turned it back on so that I could get
But
back
there's no
here.
but there we don't have any proof that he wasn't personally accountable. Like, what if he was fully accountable? What if he was just like, "Yeah, this is
Yeah.
it. Like, I'm fucking up, and I own that."
Then okay, sorry about that misread on what happened, Rob and Michelle.
No, do you know
Because I
well, we
think a
do
lot of what gets lost in the story is that it wasn't just Rob Reiner, it was also the mother.
is
I
ri
don't
is
care
it
how mad I've ever been at my mother, I could have never, ever, no matter how high on drugs. I mean, I can't say that, you know, when you get into schizophrenia and drugs and such, but the concept of killing your mother, the
I
person
know,
that
it's
bore
horrific.
you, that's just fucking outrageous. So, you know, kind of taking the temperature down a bit, I would say the film, again, I think it was maybe done out of the labor of love,
An
but me
attempt, yeah. It
yeah,
was the opportunity was given, and to me, the if anything is egregious, and maybe this is the indicator that there were mistakes made. It's that this film is like a complete smudge on his filmography. It's terrible. It's
yeah,
dreadful. And so I think that in a way you could take it as a mirror and possibly say, if you were making decisions on par with the decisions that were made to make this film and allow this film to be released, then yes, sir, you were making mistakes.
yeah, you know,
Because
and it
this
wasn't like
sucks.
it wa everybody was like, "Hey, Rob, great film, let's sign up for it now."
Man.
You know what I mean? I mean, this was people were like, you know, "Oh, it's Rob Reiner, like, it's with his son, so you know, let's be a part of this, and help, you know, the cause or whatever," you know? I mean, I think the kid that does the acting was great, or did as good a job as somebody could in that role.
Right.
I feel like, you know, I mean,
With the material.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Because the material was kind of, you know, we've
It's
seen
shit.
this before.
It
You
was
know what
we've
I
seen it
mean?
before. There's nothing to grab onto from the character's perspective. Like, you're not looking at an individual. You're looking
Yeah,
at
and you're
kind of
not
a
you know, sometimes it'll be a character that you can at least find some commonality with, and you can grab on to who they are at their heart and soul. But
right.
this is just like, you know, he did a great job of showing what a vacant human being he
Right.
was.
Right. It was just very like, you're just like, "Okay, like, thank you." For show and
Hmm.
tell, you didn't show much, and you didn't tell us, anything very interesting, yeah. For
Hmm.
me, by the way, just to circle back to the McDonald's thing, I just have to circle back to this McDonald's thing. They did a smear campaign against this woman, and she got, like, the skin on her legs, like, all the way down, like, was falling off. Like, she was, like, permanently disfigured. And so I agree with your stance, and then we're gonna go back to the movie. I'm gonna give my rating. I know this is bad. I shouldn't do this, but I just have to say this because I've had this conversation with many people, specifically from your generation and slightly like a little bit younger. It's like
We took our
the
bumps and bruises.
because it is really like part of a cultural phenomenon. The concept of the McDonald's coffee lady. Like, she is like, it's like when Blockbuster, like, the world went to hell when Blockbuster shuttered, and then the McDonald's suing for hot coffee lady like appeared in America. And but I do think that the toxicity of it was not her. She had every right to sue. It was 300 fucking degrees coffee, and it was so hot that her hand fucking like knocked on itself, and it disfigured her. She's disfigured. It's too hot. It's too goddamn hot, right? What was bad was that the smear campaign run by McDonald's, the quote unquote concept of the McDonald's hot coffee lady, not the reality.
Mhm.
that became this green light for people to try to sue at the drop of anything because the money that she won was so incredible. If I'm not mistaken, that was that like early 2000s?
I think it was even before that. It may have been, but it was a long time ago. I mean, I wanna put it in the '80s, frankly.
I think it might have been 90s, 1994.
Yeah,
Yeah,
1994?
94, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Okay, so it says, okay, the Liebeck versus McDonald's restaurant case, widely known as the Hot Copy lawsuit, was a 1994 product liability lawsuit in which a jury awarded substantial damages to Stella Liebeck, a 79-year-old woman, old lady, who suffered severe third-degree burns. Um, and like, so she was trying to put a little cream in her coffee, cup tips over, right? And it is so hot that it burns through her sweatpants and causes third-degree burns over 6% of her body, including her inner thighs, buttocks, and groin area. She was hospitalized for 8 days, lost significant body weight, and then had to go through skin graft surgeries, 13 of them. And she was left permanently scarred and partially disabled for 2 years. Okay? So Mrs. Stella Liebeck deserved the goddamn money she got. McDonald's made us fat.
Ugh,
They had it coming.
actually
And
made me mad.
yeah, and the cons and sect and the um the simulacra, right, of the McDonald's hot coffee lady created its own kind of momentum that was toxic in American culture, which I can understand and agree with, which is what I believe you're responding to.
Yeah, and it still is to this very day.
Because things are more desperate. We're more desperate. People the more that they're siphoning money away from people, the more desperate their behavior is. And if we're pointing to the poor people and the people who are trying to scavenge and scravenge to get resources to survive, we're pointing at the wrong people. That's my stance.
In a larger perspective, I can agree with you, but I also don't believe that that gives us the right to sue for every time that something happens to us that isn't,
It's
you
not, but
know.
it's not about a right. It's not about a right to sue, in my opinion. It's about actually seeing the behavior or the attempt to sue as the desire for safety, for security, for finding trying to make money appear in a society and a system that is literally stealing. They're stealing from us right now. They're
So
stealing
you
from us.
so you absolutely. I mean,
I'm not I don't I because I when I look at that, I'm not looking at it and going, yes, like that's wrong. I'm going, no, no, this is no different than people who are looting during the riots. It's no different than people who have to steal refrigerators or microwaves from people and sell them. Like people, had to do crazy stuff when I was homeless to survive. I
yeah,
had to
and
do It's just I have an understanding, I feel like, and I think you do too, of desperate measures. And so to
yeah.
me, I just think that it's the most important conversation we have to constantly be having is remembering that they use personal accountability and personal it's just like that when these corporations tried to convince us to drink out of fucking paper straws to save the planet. And did that do anything? No, because they're going to drill in fucking Alaska right now. They're
Mhm,
distracting us and telling us that we can solve it at home and it's our fucking fault. And the whole goddamn time, they're raping this planet. They're raping this earth. They're stealing our goddamn money. They're giving us fucking nothing. They're letting us fucking die. And then all the billionaires are gonna go into their fucking bunkers because they have no imagination. This is their fucking utopian vision, is living in a parking garage. And so
mhm.
it's like the conversation it has to be about the macroscopic because baby, we're all in this together. It's a small number of people who are fucking up everything. And they're
Mhm.
gonna
Oh,
and the mirror that they constantly point at us to go, But remember, you can't like it's like I I I understand the sentiment, but it's a sentiment that was sold. My mom has the same perspective you do. It's a sentiment that was sold to your generation that was very it was very
But we
Reagan.
lived it. But we
It was
lived
the
it. It's
truth
the thing
at
though.
that time,
We
but
we
it doesn't
lived
exist anymore. It doesn't exist anymore.
that we
Under
can't
the
take
algorithm.
accountability for the things that we do.
We must take accountability for the things we do, but why aren't corporations taking accountability? Why is these fucking these people who have giant
Absolutely, they should. Absolutely, they should. And I feel like, yeah, there are plenty of lawsuits that are quite clear about this company A, B, C needs to take accountability for what they've done. Look at, whether it was, Liggett Myers with the cigarettes or whether it's the Roundup lawsuits and these
the
class action
accountability is
lawsuits.
actually like as it been as the bar is so low now. We have the worst antitrust laws on the planet.
Well, and
America has
look
is
who's running the country.
I know, but it's been fucked forever.
Oh, it has. It has.
It's been
But
in Europe, the antitrust laws in Europe are much stronger. The FDA it doesn't
yeah,
even they don't even allow a lot of the fucking food from
yeah.
America here because it's so disgusting and toxic and has forever chemicals.
Absolutely,
It's
absolutely.
heinous. So when we
So
think
I'd
about
say, yeah, let's absolutely hold them accountable for those things.
Wall
I
Street too,
also but we need to hold ourselves accountable, like,
but it- but
all
but
these people that are
always
still out
hold
there
yourself
buying
accountable.
Teslas.
Always hold yourself accountable. Absolutely. But if you have if if the conversation is should all of us individually hold ourselves accountable or should we collectively get together and fucking hold those motherfuckers accountable? I'm telling you
Absolutely.
that it's
Yeah,
actually the latter. That if it's
yeah,
option A or option B, we have to pick option B because congratulations, they've had us doing option A for so goddamn long, and it's actually been a distraction so that way they could continue to fucking rape and pillage this goddamn earth and fuck us all over. And I'm
yeah,
tired of it. I'm
yeah.
fucking done. Fuck
If you
them,
think you're
chop their
tired
heads
of
off, tear their teeth out, kill them all.
think you're tired of it, you can't imagine how tired I am of it, right?
I
Because I
can't
come
imagine.
from a
I know you're
generation
tired of it,
I come
Chad.
from a time when things were like these weren't even discussions we had to have, right? Everybody just knew that, that this is right and this is wrong. And
Right.
now we're in these discussions with like these MAGA idiots where we're like, yeah, so if you actually get in Google and get off the fucking Fox News,
Right.
you can find out the truth about this stuff as long as you don't go down one of these, right-wing extremist websites that aligns with your
Straight up, you click
narrative.
on the wrong thing. It's like
Yeah,
the red pill pipeline is insane. You click on
yeah.
the wrong thing and you start to you're down it.
But and
You go,
wait till AI, which this administration says, "Oh, we don't need any kind of laws around
I
AI.
know
Just
this
let."
is insanity too.
I mean, and I just had dinner for Christmas with a guy who's like what do you call it? A physics engineers like had a Nobel Peace Prize or something, and over Christmas talking about AI and how it may grow, right? And he's just seeing like, we're playing with the dumb AI and that, the smart AI is,
Is in
you know,
closed doors, behind closed doors, right?
yeah, and it's not hold on a minute here. I think I might have just I just did a little can you see me? Sorry about that.
I can see you. You're
Um
here. You're here.
Okay. So, and he's like, so like the smart AI isn't as dangerous is I guess what he's trying to tell me is that the concerns we have about AI really kind of should fall into two different categories. Smart AI it's not going to take over, but then when we talk about like kind of the dumb AI that we have access to, has every ability to take over. I mean, I've been subject to it. I get on, um,
Yeah, there
you know,
it's the dissolution of truth. One of the books I was considering bringing to the podcast is Werner Herzog, who's a filmmaker. We've never reviewed any of his movies on the pod, but he did Grizzly Man. He does a lot of really interesting documentaries. But he has a new book out that's called The Will the Future of Truth. And it's about what is the future of truth? What is the past of truth? And it's a short book. I think it's like 120 pages, but it's about what he sees as this, like the like how truth existed before, how it was intertwined with storytelling and kind of sensationalism, how it's existing now, like fake news and stuff, and then
yeah,
also what could happen with the things with the eruption of all these things representing deep fakes and stuff.
yeah,
And
like,
I
well,
think
it's the subjectivity around it, right?
right.
Like
And there's so much slop. It's just like these
everywhere. I was gonna say, I'm on YouTube and I'm looking. I've got this thing for parrots now, right? I want a
right.
parrot. I want a parrot. I want a parrot.
You
And
want to
I'm on
pair
there.
it?
Yeah, yeah, but I don't think I'm or a cockatoo. But I don't think I'm gonna get one because I understand they can live like 80 years or something, and
Really?
yeah, they live a real long life. And so as I'm, oh, look at see, that's more of what I probably really
You would love
ultimately
a Shih
need.
Tzu. I don't know if I love Shih Tzus, but I think a Shih Tzu would be perfect for you. She's a
I used to
Scorpio.
have a Lhasa Apso, which is like the
Really?
same damn thing with a, different something,
Yeah.
but my guy Doofus looked just like him. He puppy
Doofus?
puppy
This is
Doofus,
Lulu. Yeah, she's a
Lulu,
Scorpio.
and she has to see she's a good girl.
Yeah, she's a very good girl.
But I'm watching these videos and I'm falling in love with this parrot thing because I'm like, oh my God, they're so intelligent. Let's look at what this parrot's at the doctor, and it's telling the doctor to that these little anecdotes about how it's in jokes about how it's gonna if you're gonna touch me there and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, my God, they are brilliant. That would be like a dog plus because it can actually have a conversation with you, right? And I know that birds are very intelligent. In fact, they
Yeah.
come from the dinosaur. But I realized in it, I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm like, wow, that's real. I've never actually heard, I've been around a couple birds and I've never
Right.
seen a bird that
It's a little bit,
intelligent.
yeah, right.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is garbage that is
It's
AI."
always animals. This is the thing that I think is most demented about the AI thing that I just am like, this is demonic energy. It's demonic. It's demonic. When they're like, let's do a little animal video. I go, fuck you. Fuck
Right,
you. You're
right,
fucking demons.
right?
Demons. They're demons for this
People
shit.
feeding bears off their
Feeding
porch.
bears, the little fucking bunnies bouncing on the trampoline. I go, y'all are fucked. This is
Right.
sick shit. We should be like, this is sick. They're trying to like they know that we'll respond to animals.
Yeah, and they know that if you got it when you say demonic, right? I think, and did they actually know, like, some idiot is gonna run out there and be like, "Oh, the cute bear, let me feed it like I saw on the YouTube," because
Right,
they will. They've proven to us this with their voting for the man who's ready to destroy everything we have sacred in this world.
right,
They're not bright people, and that's how the AI is gonna probably destroy us. All right, let's get to our ranking on this being
right,
Charlie, because that's kind of why we're here a little bit or a
right.
lot of it.
What a
What I
crazy episode.
That's all right though. I feel like
No, I thought it was great. I mean, I we always we I think one of the things that we have always invited about us coming from different generations was that it would create opportunity for like true healthy debate. But yes, so
wait till we hit the black white thing, brother.
I know, honey, it's coming, honey. um, so I'm gonna give it a 2.8 out of 5. I thought it was
Out of
shit.
5.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that, you're being a little nice because I'd probably be down at, like, a 2 out of 5, and it hurts that I would say that. I feel badly because of the respect I have for Rob and Michelle Reiner. Let's not lose her in this,
Right, right.
you
Thank you.
know?
Thank you for that, of
Well,
course.
because this is the part I think that is really kinda getting lost in the media. No, it's Rob Reiner and his wife. This
It's
woman
both, yeah.
was, yeah,
Was an angel,
but
and she the it what a lot of the good that he did was not alone. We are
yeah.
not we don't w no one exists in this world alone. It comes
Mm,
back to me over and over again, that quote from Kamala Harris. "Do you think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you." This. And this is the thing. It is when I was younger, I had this belief about a kind of an infantilized idea and an egoic one of like one can be a genius in this world alone, and it's like nobody lives in this world alone. Yes, we're born
mhm,
alone, we die alone, sure. You know,
mhm,
the doorway only fits one body at a time,
mhm,
absolutely. But
mhm,
when we're here on Earth, we are all interconnected, and anybody who does anything significant has people with them. And those
mhm.
people are as significant as they are. They are
Absolutely,
as important and probably indispensable to that
absolutely.
person. And whatever vision you have of them as being whatever it is they are, they're all of the people behind them that have gotten them to it are must be remembered. And
Yeah.
Michelle, all of the goodness that Rob has done, it was with his wife Michelle. And
Mhm,
so it is
mhm.
her legacy too. And
Absolutely.
and evidently they were so connected because they left this life together,
Right,
you
right.
know?
There's a nice way to look at this. As tragic as this is, 2 very giving people were able to leave, I guess the door was made open for 2.
2 for 2. There was an exception.
There was an exception here,
They yeah.
and there have been along, the years and such with other folk, but like, the dude that just died in Santa Fe and his wife, I guess, so I guess that speaks a little bit to real love and connection with those that we commune with.
Right.
So, tragic thing for the Reiner family as a whole. Being Charlie, I give it a 2. I don't think that it's gonna win any awards even now,
Right.
but, I guess with that, I would say from my perspective, I wish the Reiners, Michelle and Rob, all the peace that they can find and comfort and to rest in peace, and I wish the brother, the sister, and the
Yeah.
stepsister, the ability to digest this horrible tragedy in a way that
Allows them to
allows
continue to
them
live.
some
Yeah.
yeah, and allows them some peace in it as well.
And to be able to continue in the life that they have, to be able to access joy, to be able to like experience love and and continue that legacy of kindness. So I feel the same way. Not a great film, an interesting platform for conversation, and definitely a fascinating window into what is an incredibly tragic event, but you know, that's life. That's showbiz,
Mm,
baby.
and how it can touch us all, or how it does touch us all,
Right,
you
right.
know? Alright, well, from us at Hullabaloo,
To you.
you
Peace out. Love you too, man. Bye.
ciao.